The media have been a good foil for Trump. They have provided him with the kind of heat that conventional politicians have been unable to muster. For all of his bluster about fake news, Trump apparently watches an average of 5 hours of cable television per day. He's been a boon for the ratings, and my gosh, doesn't he know it.
Actually, in the middle of a hurricane, even though it was a Friday evening, I assumed the ratings would be far higher than they would be normally. You know, the hurricane was just starting.
2 documentaries appeared on Netflix recently, Nobody Speak and Get Me Roger Stone. Stone is a Republican Party consultant who has managed Trump's political image for the past 30 years. He is a larger-than-life character, and he and Trump are simpatico.
You confuse me with the Stephen Colbert character that I sometimes play called Roger Stone. Don't confuse him with the real Roger Stone.
What's the difference?
You'll have to sort that out.
He understands how to cater to people's worst impulses, and he was purportedly the person who encouraged Trump to promote birtherism, the belief that Barack Obama is not an American citizen. And Stone is the link between Alex Jones and the White House.
CNN has banned Roger Stone, the Republican strategist and former Trump advisor, from appearing as a guest. This after the discovery of his offensive tweets against CNN contributors. Stone once called Ana Navarro an abusive diva and borderline retarded. Stone also called then-contributor Roland Martin a stupid Negro, a moron, and a token, and suggested he eat more fried chicken.
To ban someone because you disagree with their views demonstrates you're not really a news organization, but you're an opinion organization. CNN means Clinton News Network. There are more people watching Infowars.com than watching MSNBC, and at some hours CNN combined.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are broadcasting worldwide. Roger Stone, the consummate Trump insider, the Vice-Trumpian, joins us.
Alex Jones is very important. I realize the elite media likes to call him a conspiracy theorist.
I don't like them putting chemicals in the water that turn the friggin' frogs gay. Do you understand that? Serious crap.
But he has a bully pulpit that allows him to reach millions of people. And they are Trump's people. They're outsiders, skeptical about government, skeptical about the bullshit government is always trying to peddle you.
Mexico is a globalist client state, and they teach them. America belongs to you. You're going to get the gringo. Plan of San Diego. Don't know what that is. It's a plan to take over in a race war and kill all whites below the age of 16.
Sure, it's a non-elitist crowd, but they're Americans and they vote. CNN, MSNBC, they're now the fringe. Alt-right communications, we are the mainstream.
The other documentary, Nobody Speak, concerns a billionaire technology investor Peter Thiel. Thiel's another big-time Trump supporter, and he sued the gossip website Gawker into bankruptcy using the wrestler Hulk Hogan as a proxy. Leaving aside the rather loose ethics of Gawker publishing Hulk Hogan's sex tape, the case set a problematic legal precedent in which Americans can argue that they have separate front stage and backstage personas.
Let me ask you this. Let's see if we can simplify this. Do you have any doubt as you sit in that witness stand today that you were discussing the length of your penis on Bubba's radio program? Any doubt?
Well, it's not mine, because mine isn't that size, but we were discussing the length of Hulk Hogan's.
Seriously? So, you
No, seriously, I do not have a 10-inch penis. No, I do not. Seriously.
Fair enough. So what you're telling us is you were discussing
Believe that,
Hulk Hogan's
seriously.
penis, right?
Excuse me?
You were discussing Hulk Hogan's penis.
Yeah, because Terry Bollea's penis is not 10 inches like you're trying to say.
All right.
You're fired.
When Donald Trump was criticized for his misogynist remarks, one of the defenses against that attack was that, he was just saying these rude things about women. That was his TV personality.
A lot of those statements is what Mr. Trump made as a television character. So I don't think that some of that is going to stick. Again,
I don't know where that leaves journalists. I think at the very least, even if we're not going to actually call them out in out-and-out lies, although I don't see why not. I don't see why a character should be immune.
Although Neil Postman wrote Amusing Ourselves to Death 30 years ago, before competitive cable news, before broadband internet, before YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, he describes the emergence of what has become known as the attention economy. There has been a worldwide revolution in expression and an explosion of content. Old limits have vanished and people are finding new ways to tell stories and share knowledge. However, there's more information than citizens can process. A big dilemma is posed. If everyone is speaking at once, who gets heard? Which ideas gain currency? I've been following someone called Tristan Harris, a former design ethicist at Google, who now runs a charity called Time Well Spent. Here is an excerpt from a TED Talk Harris gave, in which he describes how our attention is now a commercial consideration. I want you to take special note to what he says about our response to outrage.
When we talk about technology, we tend to talk about it as this blue sky opportunity. It could go any direction. And I want to get serious for a moment and tell you why it's going in a very specific direction. Because it's not evolving randomly. There's a hidden goal driving the direction of all of the technology we make. And that goal is the race for our attention. Every news site, TED, elections, politicians, games, even meditation apps have to compete for one thing, which is our attention. A simple example is YouTube. YouTube wants to maximize how much time you spend. And so what do? They autoplay the next video. And let's say that works really well. They're getting a little bit more of people's time. Well, if you're Netflix, you look at that and say, well, that's shrinking my market share, so I'm going to autoplay the next episode. But then if you're Facebook, you say, well, no, that's shrinking all of my market share, so now I have to autoplay all the videos in the newsfeed before waiting for you to click play. So the internet is not evolving at random. The reason it feels like it's sucking us in the way it is because of this race for attention. We have a temptation to think about this as, oh, they're just using Snapchat the way we used to gossip on the telephone. It's probably okay. Well, what this misses is that in the 1970s, when you were just gossiping on the telephone, there wasn't 100 engineers on the other side of the screen who knew exactly how your psychology worked and orchestrated you into a double bind with each other. Now, if this is making you feel a little bit of outrage, notice that that thought just comes over you. Outrage is a really good way also of getting your attention. Because we don't choose outrage, it happens to us. And if you're the Facebook news feed, whether you'd want to or not, you actually benefit when there's outrage. Because outrage doesn't just schedule a reaction in an emotional time space for you. We want to share that outrage with other people. So we want to hit share and say, can you believe the thing that they said? And so outrage works really well at getting attention, such that if Facebook had a choice between showing you the outrage feed and a calm news feed, they would want to show you the outrage feed, not because someone consciously chose that, but because that worked better at getting your attention. We know where this is going. Technology is not neutral. And it becomes this race to the bottom of the brainstem of who can go lower to get it.
Behavioral psychology and computer science meet in a field called captology, which was pioneered in the Stanford University Persuasive Technology Lab. Technology companies deploy it to change users' cognitive habits. The user experience is shaped around emotional cues and rewards to hook us in. Social media forgoes the uncertain pleasure of sustained reading in favor of a cheap dopamine fix. More than 3 billion people now use social media to communicate, learn, and order their lives, and it's quite an unnerving thing to consider at scale its potential to distort discourse. Social media is biased toward negative emotional cues, and confrontation boosts signal. There are now a class of personalities who have learned to game this bias. They will say anything to draw attention to themselves. Shallow thinkers offering low-quality discourse. There's a political entertainment complex on YouTube comprising loosely affiliated commentators who sometimes appear together, and they're preoccupied with a narrow set of cultural issues.
Yeah, I could see freaking Europeans being the new refugees, essentially.
Yeah, we should be refugees. Got to look at the people in South Africa, the white people in South Africa. They should be refugees too with the shit they're going through. Jesus.
Yeah, it's fucked up. I know most people know who you are. Let's be honest. Let's say like 80% of our audience is like, yeah. But you can go ahead and explain who you are.
Sure. So I have my own channel too. It's Roaming Millennial. Cover kind of similar topics to you guys. Feminism, social justice, and stuff like that.
There's no better way for them to challenge politically correct orthodoxies or obtain user engagement than to collaborate with white nationalists, which I'll briefly touch on in a minute. Outrage doesn't just drive user engagement, but also narratives.
I'm here on vacation in Terceira, Portugal. Wanted to just chill out, you know, just stress-free. And of course, I didn't even want to be part of any YouTube drama because I'm just sort of like, you know, let's just talk about the important issues, whatever. But she makes a fucking follow-up video. So her original video was talking about my advertising video.
The writer Joe Bish describes online feuds, as they relate to YouTube, as a seemingly endless double helix of constantly crisscrossing videos reacting to events which no history book would ever document. Right now I'm trying to get my head around an exchange between a YouTuber called Armored Skeptic and another, Francesca Ramsey. Armored Skeptic is a popular YouTuber who describes himself as an anti-authoritarian member of the left. He places himself in opposition to Ramsey, a feminist whose content explores social justice topics. Ramsey made some comments on her podcast which Armored Skeptic responds to in a video. From what I can gather, Armored Skeptic is attacking Ramsey for exhibiting some old media-style elitism. He gives a highly personalised and unedifying performance. But what's interesting is that he describes himself as an entertainer in the mould of Stewart and Colbert, and goes further, implying that he speaks for a kind of political constituency.
They're normal. They are, I mean, the guy that I met was like groveling and basically like apologizing to me and like telling me that he was so sorry. He went off and made a video about how beautiful I am. Like, these are people who are fucking pathetic in real life, and then they put on their little troll costume and they go on YouTube. They do this like choreographed fight. Yes, exactly.
I'm glad I'm finally learning how little respect you have for us. I mean, I had always suspected, but it's just nice to have closure, you know? You're like an actual shitty human being. You admit that we're normal people in real life and we act differently on camera. So does Jon Stewart and Stephen Colbert. You're just describing how entertainment works. Why do you think that we're more popular than you? We're more entertaining than you. So is your problem with YouTube's new feature, or do you just not like that we make money? I don't understand how you can demonize people for being smart enough to evolve and adapt and remain viable. That makes them smart people. People who survive in entertainment are the people who can evolve to the new environment the best. I don't want controversy. I don't thrive on drama. I want for our camp, our side, to be taken seriously, to be acknowledged as legitimate. Just like the first 3 rows that showed up at those panels, the skeptics and anti-social justice warriors, they're all tired of not being taken seriously.
This opens up important questions about how ideas and policies are tested. Are ideas that can be made entertaining the ones that matter? On that token, do we judge the validity of them on their audience size? How can people with specialized knowledge like academics make their work relevant? And perhaps most pertinently, is belief itself becoming an entertainment genre that we engage through our own front stage personas online? Large communities have assembled around online personalities. Many of them believe that they're in the midst of a culture war, and they are, but not in the way that they think. It's the culture of the spectacle. It would be remiss of me not to touch very briefly on a book, Society of the Spectacle, which was published in 1967. Guy Debord develops the spectacle as a concept and describes it as not a collection of images, but a social relationship between people that is mediated by them. Debord notes the decline of organized religion at the same time as the ascendancy of the advertising industry. He describes a world in which communication no longer occurs in a direct, authentic way. He says we've lost an acute awareness of our relationships with each other, with nature. He calls it a false reality which shapes our behavior. This book is filled with Marxism. However, unlike other Marxist theorists of their era like Adorno, who say culture is something imposed by a ruling elite to subdue the masses, Debord doesn't regard humans in such authoritarian terms. He describes the spectacle as a system of serfdom without an overlord, something we internalize within ourselves, and we're becoming locked into it. Memes, simple arresting images, shared across social media have been increasingly used as a vehicle for political ideology. Memes represent the pulverization of discourse to fragments. They are shared online mostly for their ability to entertain, whether what is being shared is true or not. In 2017, far-right ideologies are taking up more space in our minds than they would ordinarily need to be. And it isn't because fascism is a great idea worthy of discussion. The far right is following the trail that Trump forged by generating attention, enabled by the signal boost provided by their opponents' outrage. Here's the neo-Nazi Richard Spencer talking to Vice's Ellie Reeves.
We memed alt-right into existence, and it's now almost a household name. We didn't meme Donald Trump into existence, but I think we have inflected Donald Trump's trajectory, and at the very least, we've inflected how he's perceived. So yes. That is meme magic. I have actually met some kids from 4chan who started reading some identitarian or some of Kevin MacDonald's work or anything critical of race relations, immigration, Jewish influence, so on. And they actually read this stuff so that they could troll people. So they read it almost like as a kind of, it's like, oh, I want to get these arguments so that I can really piss people off.
Right.
That was their entrance to it, but after reading it, they were actually convinced by it.
If you're watching this video and you don't identify as a member of the left, you probably feel bewildered by everyone being labelled a Nazi these days. I believe this is simply because far-right rhetoric was once clearly demarcated by our mainstream media, who marginalised it. But now there's a lot of confusion and fears of Nazism becoming detoxified. Some people see Nazis everywhere, while others are worryingly blind to it. Far-right tropes and signifiers are now played with a real glibness by the kids in the suburbs, who maybe misunderstand the historical gravity of them. That sense of literary detachment Neil Postman wrote about seems unavailable in our fragmented personality-driven discourse. And a dangerous politic is emerging from the shadows, helped along by people addicted to the immediate gratification of provoking their political opponents. When we talk about the concept of free speech, which is enshrined in America's Constitution, or phrases like the battle of ideas or sunlight is the best disinfectant, one might imagine a profoundly serious, principled scene where informed citizens carefully examine and contemplate ideas and policies. But that is simply not our reality. So the video Trump tweeted encapsulates the media landscape in ways people have been discussing for the past half century. There are detailed and quite frankly boring conversations that the public should be having about how to build better societies, protect our environment, maintain good international relations.
I do not like them, Sam I Am. I do not like green eggs and ham.
But these conversations are now obscured. The kind of outrage that might, in a different time, have driven positive social change has become gamified. The American president epitomized this era in which we now live, one of confusion, three-word chants, memes, fight-or-flight responses. A communications revolution in which technology is changing the way we think and propagate belief. But somewhere along the line we've lost the space where ideas can breathe and cooler heads can prevail. This is a world without restraint, and with Donald Trump, you can't find a more perfect bastard. Thanks for watching, and well done if you've made it this far. I'm interested in your feedback, so please add to the discussion below, subscribe or cuss me out on Twitter. I want to give a very warm thank you to my patrons. I want to make these kinds of videos more frequently, and your support is really valuable. There's some content on Patreon which I've removed from this video to give it some more pace. I ask if this is what 21st century fascism looks like, discuss the Megyn Kelly-Alex Jones feud, and I visit Jon Stewart's 2004 appearance on Crossfire. Or you could read a good book. See you next time.